We're watching the aftermath of big political news. The X Factor exits the Missouri U.S. Senate race. Independent candidate John Wood is out.
And while independent candidates have had limited success in the past, I think this is a unique opportunity because our country is so divided right now.
That was Wood on August 2nd. Just 3 weeks later, he changed his mind, saying he ran in the first place to give conservatives a principled alternative to former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens, who, as you know, lost in the primaries earlier this month. Wood had the support and the backing of former longtime Republican Senator Jack Danforth. Now it's down to the two major party candidates in Missouri. So we have State Attorney General Eric Schmitt on the Republican side and political newcomer Trudy Busch Valentine, a Democrat and heir to the Busch beer fortune. Here to discuss the news of Wood's departure and the other big political headlines, we welcome back Brian Ellison, host contributor with KCUR, and KMBC9 political reporter Michael Mahoney. Welcome back, gentlemen. What does Wood bowing out mean for this race?
Well, I think it's hard to know. I don't necessarily believe that this is a big help to Eric Schmitt. I think the relatively small number of people, as it turns out to have been, that would have voted for John Wood, are not necessarily going to be Eric Schmitt voters. Having said that, I think we all know that Trudy Busch Valentine has an extremely uphill battle to be competitive in this race. I think this might all be something we forget about in a couple of months.
You know, I think the Schmitt campaign is probably breathing a small sigh of relief because the voters that would have cast a ballot for John Wood as an independent most likely would have come from a likely Schmitt voter and certainly not Trudy Busch Valentine. So that's good. Having said all that, it was interesting because the rumors were immediately before and after the primary was that if Eric Greitens did not win the nomination, John Wood's campaign would go poof and go away. Well, it didn't happen, and he did interviews like the one that we just saw a moment ago where he said, among other things, I'm in it to win it. To the direct question, are you still in this because Greitens is out? He said, no, I'm still in it. Then he turns around 3 weeks later and gets out because he didn't have much of a lane.
It's hard to know what John Wood was expecting to happen. It seems like he maybe thought he'd take one lap around the state and something would happen and his campaign would catch fire. That obviously did not happen. What I'm interested in is what the impact of this is on the political influence of Jack Danforth, who now, after supporting Josh Hawley and expressing his deep regret for having supported him, now took another flyer on a candidate that didn't work out. I'm suspecting we may not see Jack Danforth try to enter into politics in quite the same way.
Well, that and Jack Danforth, who was one of the people that led the resurrection of the Republican Party in the state of Missouri in the 1970s and 80s, is now a senior statesman, to say the least, in Missouri politics, and his influence in the future, I think, I agree, limited.
All right. Let's talk about Jeff City. We know Missouri Governor Mike Parson last week said, okay, I'm going to call a special session next month to call for an income tax cut, a raise to standard deductions, getting rid of the bottom tax bracket. Here's what he said in Kansas City Tuesday.
We can afford to do it now. If we don't do it now, we end up spending the money. Because if we leave that money, I guarantee you go to Jeff City, they're going to find different things they want to spend the money on.
Of course, he also wants an agricultural tax credit. He vetoed 2 tax proposals last month. What's your take on this?
I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. There seems to be an assumption that the Republican majority in Jefferson City will go for a tax cut, especially just before an election. Having said that, I'm not sure that's the case. I spoke with Senator John Rizzo, the Democratic caucus leader in the Senate. He made clear that he thinks the diversity of thought in the Republican Party, the same people who didn't pass Parsons' cut during the regular session, might keep this from going the way the governor hopes.
Mike Parsons' batting average in special sessions since he's been governor is not a strong one, and I agree with you, Brian. There's lots moving parts on this. We'll see. And the other thing is that he'll get no Democratic support for this, absolutely, even though it's an election year, because they're going to maintain that much of these tax cuts are going to go to higher income Missourians rather than folks at the bottom of the ladder.
Right, and critics say, well, couldn't we spend the money on other things like teacher pay or expanded health care in Missouri? Let's end in Kansas here, where we saw the Amendment 2 recount end. The Republican Secretary of State, and that's important here, says that this proves that there's no widespread election fraud in Kansas. But there's a lawsuit now that the state has to contend with because the person who bankrolled this recount is still firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that the principal groups that were involved in pushing the Value Them Both amendment have taken a walk on this recount now. I mean, it was 18 points, for goodness sake. I don't know that this lawsuit is going to go anywhere. It's going to be expensive. The people who want it have to pay for it. It's not a good look for the Right to Life movement in Kansas right now. They look like sore losers.
All right, well, we're going to leave it there for today. Michael Mahoney, Brian Ellison, thanks so much for your time.